Northern Hemisphere. The Coriolis effect causes wind and water currents to bend to the right. Air moves from areas of high pressure to low pressure. Winds converging on the equator come from the northeast in the northern hemisphere and the southeast in the southern hemisphere. Global wind currents. The four major systems are the polar and tropical easterlies, the prevailing westerlies, and the intertropical convergence zone. Polar easterlies. They can be found at the north and south poles, and they are cold and dry because where it is located, which is at high latitudes. They form when cool air at the poles and then transfer to the equator. They are located 60 to 90 degrees latitude in both the southern and northern hemispheres. Prevailing westerlies. They are located in the 30 to 60 degrees latitude in the northern and southern hemispheres. They blow from west to east and occur in the clement part of the earth. Tropical easterlies. They take direction in an east to west flow because of the rotation of the earth. As air from the equator rises, it gets warmer, and when it cools back down, it comes back down to the equator. They are located 0 to 30 degrees latitude in both hemispheres. Intertropical convergence zone. It is also known as the equatorial convergence zone or the intertropical front. It forms when the southeast and the northeast trade winds converge in a low pressure zone near the equator. It usually appears as a band of clouds and comes with thunderstorms.
The southern hemisphere's global wind currents reside in three separate sections starting from the bottom of the equator going to the South Pole. Starting right below the equator is the global trade winds. These winds flow from the southeast up to the equator. Secondly, the global westerlies currents, which flow from west to east, are very strong because they are mostly over oceans and fewer continents. Lastly, the polar easterlies, which flow away from the South Pole, deflect toward the west. Wind currents affect everywhere on Earth, but specifically in Alabama, wind currents have brought devastation and chaos through tropical storm buildups in the Gulf Coast. Tropical Storm Nate was one of these incidents when windstorm buildups occurred from October 4th through the 11th, which resulted in fluctuating between a tropical storm and a hurricane. In the Gulf, Nate found low wind shear and provided surge floods from 7 to 11 feet above ground in some coastal areas. Tropical Storm Irma was another more prominent situation in other areas than Alabama during its peaks. Those considered a tropical depression during its time in Alabama.